What's going on, guys? Welcome back to a brand new video on the channel. Inside of today's video, we're going to take a look at the best 10 brawlers in Brawl Stars right now. So we've been playing Brawl Stars literally non-stop since the update dropped, but there's been so many balance changes, so many new hype charges, a lot has shifted, and it's hard to tell within a couple of days, but this is going to be my first glimpse of what I think is going to be the top 10 brawlers in the game. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to the channel because over 65% of you guys have not subscribed. So keep up to date with all the content and subscribe to the channel. So without further ado, let's jump into the rankings then. So at number 10 we have a Piper. So Piper has fallen down a little bit. The nerf that she received wasn't really too much. It only nerfed her minimum damage, which is very rare really with Piper, that you're going to deal damage literally at point blank range, because most of the time you're going to be using auto aimer to bump them out of that minimum distance. But the main reason why she kind of creeped down the meta a little bit is because of brawlers like Max. You'll see that common theme coming into play a lot of the time. She can't deal with some of the aggression going on, but she's still a top 10 brawler in the game. The reason being because she still does so much damage. There's still quite a lot of open maps within the map pool, and one of her best counters in Nanny has been nerfed, so she's still in and around the top 10. You can never really go wrong with Piper in gem grab, never go wrong with Piper just on any open map or knockout bounty, etc. And a lot of times it's just a skill issue. If you miss your shots, you're going to get punished with Piper, but if you start landing those shots, especially with snappy sniping, you're going to do a whole lot of damage. The good thing about her as well, even on maps that don't have, well, it's not the most open, you can just use super to open up the map, counters some of the different brawlers, and you're able to pop off more. So for me, Piper's still a top 10 brawler. Before we continue on with the rest of the ranking, there's a few honorable mentions which I want to talk about quickly. So first brawler is going to be Mr. P. He received a big buff to his porter movement speed, which has helped him out a lot. It's skyrocketed him up the meta. I'm not too sure whether he's top 10 ready right now, but in a few days time probably will be able to tell. Cordelius, I still think he's in and around the top 10, even with a damage nerf and a supercharged nerf. I still think he's pretty good. He's just not being used as much as I previously seen. Maybe he's been underrated right now. Charlie as well, I think she's still a decent brawler. I think the range nerf will catch up to her though, but she's still pretty solid and still a good shutdown. And lastly, Larry and Laurie, I still think they're in and around the top 10. I feel like other hypercharges now are starting to expose them a bit too much, so that's why they've kind of creeped outside of the top 10, but they're still a solid brawler overall. So at number 9 then, this is going to be extremely controversial, but I have gone with Kit. So Kit recently received a couple of buffs and a nerf with the last set of balance changes. So the first one was with the stealth duration, with the gadget got nerfed from 5 seconds to 3 seconds, and then 2 damage buffs, both 25% to his main attack damage and his super damage. So that's the reason why he's catapulted up so much, hence the pun. But literally, he's actually really strong. You got to try him out more. He's actually got a lot more assassin capabilities, and like I said, the sweet spot normally when a brawler is buffed, I would say around above 15 or 13%, it makes a big difference in the meta, and especially like a brawler like Kit. You can go on the offensive now with the amount of damage you deal, especially against those squishy brawlers, because you can easily 1-2 tap and then super, get that combination, and you can kill them quickly. And then not only that, you can use your super, of course, to heal up your teammates, and they can go on the aggressive. If you've got a tank or just any sort of aggressive mid, you're going to get a lot of damage with your super. So for me, I think Kit is super versatile. I think Kit's going to make the biggest increase in the meta. This is a bold prediction, but I really think Kit can be a top 10 brawler. Moving into the 8th best brawler in the game right now, I went with Jean. So Jean's always a brawler which casual player base struggle to deal with, but on the competitive side, he's insanely strong right now. He's always been in and around the top 10 ever since he got that damage buff. Again, like, he's so versatile in knockout and bounty in particular, because you can never really go wrong with Jean. But now with the hypercharge, of course, getting the stat boost of a speed boost and a damage boost is insane. But I'm thinking people might actually start switching out his build. It's not a troll. I feel like Spirit Slap actually might be the better star power combined with his hyper hands hypercharge. The hypercharge itself isn't the best, but I think once people learn how to use it, getting like 4k damage or maybe even 6k damage onto some brawlers, if you pull all 3 of them, I think it's actually pretty strong. It allows them to play a lot more aggressively, and since the damage buff which you got a couple of months ago, I think it's just been creeping further and further up the meta. Now you might start seeing him in Brawl, for example. Now you might start seeing him as a gem carry again in gem grab, and if you start seeing those things, which I am, that's when it starts to become a G meta. So for me, I think he's quite clearly in and around the top 10 right now. So moving into the 7th best brawler with the update, we have Belle. So even though she received a nerf to a hypercharge charge rate, it went from 2 supers to 2.5 supers. She's still a really versatile brawler, and I think she'll be played a lot in the upcoming monthly finals, which is going on. But yeah, the reason why Belle is so strong is because she's just super versatile. You think of other snipers who do get countered by a lot of aggression, and I feel like with a Max meta, with a Sandy meta, there's going to be a lot more aggression now, so that's why Nanny Piper might not be as strong, but Belle still can deal with Max pretty well. You've got the gadget to slow Max down, you've just got the consistent damage with Belle, and then you've got the hypercharge, which can still make game-changing plays. It's not the flashiest of hypercharges, but it's still a good stat boost where you can use to push the opponents back into spawn. And like I said, Belle is just so consistent. So many open maps where you can play Belle. There's so many situations. Pretty much every single game mode, you can pretty much go a Belle. So for me, I think she's easily still a top 10 brawler in the game. So next up is the 6th best brawler in the game right now. I've gone with Byron. So I know what you might be thinking. Byron's just kind of came out of nowhere and he hasn't even received a buff. But even before this update, I was starting to believe that Byron was a top 10 brawler. Now I'm watching a lot of scrims with the pro players, and I just believe that Byron easily has to be a top 10 brawler right now. So again, if you're wondering how he's became so strong, he seems to receive buffs pretty much every other update. He's received like a reload speed buff, he's received a supercharge buff, and then a damage buff in the update a month ago, I think, with all the changes. And I think that's just skyrocketed Byron so far up the meta. And the main reason why he was just trash in the past was because of all of these hyper charges like Fang, Edgar, all of these assassin ones which were just breaking the game. But now the hypercharge is only limited to 5 seconds. It allows sharpshooters to shine a lot more, and especially brawlers like Byron. So I just think the damage boost was just so good for him. He can be a really good pocket healer. So, you know, in maps like Rustic Arcade, for example, I'm seeing a lot of combinations with like 8-bit or just any type of mid where he can sit down the left-hand side, he can heal up the mid, but then also he can carry down the lane as well. And because it takes only 3 shots to get your super, you can actually play really aggressive with Byron. I think he's definitely a top 10 brawler in the game. You have to test him out more. My win rate with him in ranked is astronomical right now. You need to try him out. So now moving into the top 5 brawlers in the game right now. Starting off at number 5 with Leon. So Leon still is one of the best brawlers in the game. He received no more nerfs. That goes to say that maybe he's not as strong in the data side of things, but I think he's still incredibly strong, mainly because of his hypercharge. We still haven't touched it. The fact that you just stay invisible while shooting is just way too broken, and of course the speed damage boost as well allows you to confirm so many kills with Leon, and it's just so easy to cycle. The hardest thing, of course, since the nerf a couple of months ago is to get that first super, because basically at maximum range it's much harder to get that first super, a lot harder to cycle through it. But again, you get one super and then you get another one, and then you get another one, and then by that time you've got a hypercharge and you can just make a game-changing play. Again, the best thing about Leon always is that he's super versatile. You can pretty much play him in every single scenario, mainly because of his lollipop drop gadget. It enables you to just connect bushes. It enables you to connect it so your mid can collect gems a lot easier. It's just really annoying for the opponents to deal with, and whilst you've got, you know, gadgets available, you can still get so much pressure on the map, and it just allows you to build up your super much quicker as well. So many good things about Leon right now. He's still easily a top 5 brawler. Next up at number 4, we have Max. So the return of the Max meta is definitely here right now already because of the buffs which she received a couple of months ago. Pros were thinking she was in and around the top 10, but it's quite hard for that to actually translate to casual gameplay because Max is a hard brawler to play for the casuals. But now I believe even the casuals should be able to play Max a lot. So the thing that people get wrong straight away, Max isn't a carry brawler. You're not going to have some crazy stats at the end of the game. She's a support brawler. You want to enable your teammates and push them up with your supers that you can provide. But I just think it's the aggro plays you can make, especially with the hypercharge. You can just get so much map control, and once you get this hypercharge, you can just literally lightning fast go from one side of the map to the other. It's like you've got the calm mutation pretty much always with this hypercharge. There is a small bug with it though, where you actually have to stand still when you press the hypercharge, or else the opponents won't get the energy drink that's thrown. But I think once they fix that, or if it's intentional, I'm not entirely sure, Max will be absolutely, maybe even the best brawler in the game, because you get a 25% supercharge as well from this energy drink from the hypercharge. You could just cycle through them so quickly. Again, the best thing about Max always when she's meta is that she's super versatile. You can play as a mid in Gem Grab, play as a mid in Brawl Ball, and the fact that she can enable other brawlers like Sandy, Nita, tanks. There's just so many brawler synergies with Max. She's always a really fun brawler to play when she's meta. The next up is the third best brawler in the game right now. We still have Melody. So I know she received 2 nerfs, 1 to her gadget and 1 to her star power, but I knew for sure that would be nowhere near enough because those things weren't even that toxic. They were strong, but it wasn't the reason why she's like one of the best brawlers in the game. I think something needs to be done about her dashes. She has 3 dashes, which is fun, but at the same time it is so cheesy. It enables her to make so many plays. She's like really broken in heist right now because you can just constantly go aggro in time and time again. Her notes deal so much damage to the safe. Not only that, it's just a plays that you can make. You can just be recklessly aggro a lot of the time, not even realize what you're doing, and you're just still deleting the opponents. And like it only takes 4 hits to get those 3 dashes, which is just absolutely insane. And she's actually really tanky. People don't realize how tanky she is. 8,000 HP is nothing to be disgraced about. She doesn't deal a lot of damage with her main attack, but it's just the pressure that she provides in pretty much every single scenario. It's second to none. No brawler can get around the map as quickly as Melody. So for me, she's easily still a top 3 brawler in the game. So now moving into the second best brawler in the game right now, we still have Angelo. So I know what you're thinking. He received a nerf for the last set balance changes, but I knew it would definitely not be enough, and he's still one of the best brawlers in the game easily. So the nerf was that the poison damage was reduced by 50%, essentially meaning that he could only deal a maximum of 6,600 damage instead of 8,800, but that's still a lot. The main problem is just his main attack damage, 4,400 damage. He hits like a truck, and it's the fact that, you know, brawlers like Hank, for example, they get their bubble reset when they're charging up. But brawlers like Angelo that can just hold onto a 4.4k arrow is just too much. And the fact that it doesn't reveal the ambushes, for example, just like Hank, there's just so many reasons why Angelo is still so strong. It still takes 2 hits to get your super. The charge is just insane. The fact that as well, it heals you up for 600 every time. So if you're cycling supers with 2 shots, that's all it takes if you hit a maximum damage arrow. You're just infinitely healing it. It's so hard to actually kill him. He has 6,000 damage for a sniper as well. Very fast movement speed, a gadget to get away. There's just so many amazing things about Angelo. He's easily still one of the best brawlers in the game for sure. So now moving into the best brawler in the game right now with the update, we have Sandy. So Sandy recently received a hypercharge called Swift Winds, and this hypercharge is so insane. It's absolutely crazy. So you get this hypercharge with less than 2 supers. You literally get the hypercharge before your second super, which is crazy. All it takes for Sandy is to get the first super, and then you can cycle to your next one, and by the time you've got your next one, you've got a hypercharge available. Like I said, it's crazy. So the hypercharge itself, you get a 20% movement speed buff. You silence opponents for 0.5 seconds as well, which isn't like incredibly strong, but it's still an extra thing on top of your super, and you just overwhelm the opponents so incredibly fast. You can literally throw the super on them, and by the time you throw it on them, they've been silenced. Your teammates are just speeding right into their faces. You get the 25% speed and a 25% damage boost as well with Sandy. It literally equals a team wipe pretty much every single time. You know, normally it just equaled like control of the map, for example, but it doesn't even matter now. You just run all over the opponents with all of these crazy stat boosts. So for me, Sandy has to be the best brawler in the game right now. The biggest limitation to Sandy is definitely the map pool and outranging him, but you know, if you get a good Sandy map, he's 100% the best brawler on that map. You know, like center stage, for example, double swooshes, so many grassy maps where he's by far the best brawler there. So that's going to be it for today's video. Let me know whether you disagree with any of these rankings. Like I said, there's a couple of controversial ones. I think the only controversial one is Kit. I've always got to make a bold claim, but I think Kit's damage boost is definitely going to go under the radar for a little bit. I think Kit could easily be like an 8-tier brawler in this meta, for example. So that's going to be it. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you guys next time.